In one country, $1 million can feel like you found the cheat code. Nice apartment, good food, taxis when you want them, delivery when you are lazy, and massages often enough that your shoulders start living better than you used to. In another country, the same $1 million can walk into the housing market, buy one decent place, and immediately lose its attitude. That is the part people usually skip when they talk about being a millionaire. $1 million sounds like one clear thing. It sounds rich. It sounds finished. It sounds like the money problem has been solved and now your biggest concern is choosing which apartment to buy. But money does not mean the same thing everywhere. The same million can feel squeezed in New York, relaxed in Bangkok, powerful in Chengdu, and cautious in Switzerland. The number stays the same, the life around it changes completely. Same bank account, different difficulty setting. So the question is simple. What is it actually like to have $1 million in every country? We are covering the countries people are most curious about, plus a few useful extremes. The point is, how different the same money feels depending on where you put it. The first thing people usually check is the exchange rate. That is fun for about 10 seconds. It is also where a lot of bad money takes start. A bigger local number can look impressive while telling you almost nothing. The number only matters after you compare it with rent, meals, transportation, services, healthcare, and taxes. Depending on exchange rates, $1 million becomes millions of Chinese yuan, well over 100 million Japanese yen, more than a billion South Korean won, tens of millions of Thai baht, and tens of billions of Vietnamese dong. Those numbers sound dramatic. They also do not answer the real question, because a giant local number does not automatically mean giant lifestyle. Prices are local too. If the rent, food, services, taxes, healthcare, and property prices are also working against you, the big number starts looking a lot less impressive. The real question is lifestyle. Can you rent somewhere nice? Could you buy property, or would that eat the whole budget? Can you eat out often? Can you get the daily comforts people imagine when they say, live like a king? Massages, cleaning, taxis, delivery, and restaurants where the bill does not make you stare at the wall? Could passive income from the money cover your basic life? Or would you still need to work because the local housing market has decided to humble you personally? That is the test. We are taking the same $1 million from country to country and asking what it buys as a practical lifestyle, not as a fantasy montage. Treat this as a thought experiment, not financial or relocation advice. Exchange rates move, rents change, tax rules change. Healthcare, visas, safety, and property laws depend on who you are and where you live. So the numbers should be treated as snapshots, not permanent truths. But the bigger lesson is stable. $1 million is powerful, but the country decides how powerful it feels. In some places, it gives you long-term comfort. In others, it gives you security but not luxury. In a few places, it gets dangerously close to king mode. And in the most expensive cities, it becomes a very polite down payment wearing a fake crown. So we start with the rules, then we start with the country. Most American viewers understand best. The United States. Before comparing countries, we need a simple test. Exchange rates alone are not enough. Otherwise, this becomes a currency converter with a microphone, which is not a personality. If all we do is convert currency, the video becomes a list of big numbers. $1 million becomes millions of yuan, hundreds of millions of yen, billions of won, and tens of billions of dong. Interesting for a moment, then immediately useless. A better question is purchasing power. Purchasing power means how much your money actually buys where you are. Economists often use purchasing power parity, or PPP, to compare price levels between countries. The simple version is this: a dollar amount should be judged by what it can buy in real life, not only by what it converts into at a currency desk. For this video, the test has 7 parts. First, currency shock. How big does the local number look? This is mostly for the fun of it. Humans hear billion and temporarily become terrible accountants. Second, housing. This is usually the biggest fantasy killer. Renting a nice apartment and buying a home are completely different questions. A country can be affordable in daily life while one famous city still has brutal property prices. Third, living expenses. Food, groceries, utilities, phone plans, transportation, and basic comfort. This is the normal life test. Fourth, service life. This is the part people actually imagine when they say living like a king. Forget the crown. The real fantasy is massages, cleaners, taxis, laundry, delivery, restaurants, and never spending your Saturday fighting a washing machine. In some countries, those services are everyday luxuries. In others, they are rare treats. Fifth, passive income. If you had $1 million saved or invested, could the income help pay for life? At 1%, $1 million produces about $10,000 per year before taxes. At 3%, about $30,000. At 5%, about $50,000. That math is simple. Real life is not. Taxes, inflation, fees, currency risk, and investment risk all matter. Bank rates change, bond yields change, stocks go down. Anyone promising risk-free income is selling the easy version of a complicated thing, usually with a very confident spreadsheet. Sixth, the big city trap. Country averages can lie by being too broad. New York, Paris, Shanghai, and Seoul each tell you something useful, but none of them represents the entire country. The biggest city is often where money goes to get humbled. Seventh, the final lifestyle rating. The ratings are simple: king mode potential, very comfortable; rich, but calm down; comfortable, but city dependent; house poor; millionaire risk; and millionaire on paper only. These are not perfect scientific rankings, they are practical lifestyle labels. They ask whether $1 million feels like freedom, comfort, or just a respectable amount of money surrounded by expensive problems. There is one more practical issue: liquidity. $1 million in a flexible account is different from $1 million trapped inside a house you do not want to sell. Buying can create stability. Renting can keep the money available for income, emergencies, and better choices later. Neither is automatically smarter. The point is that the form of the money matters as much as the amount. The other important distinction is local lifestyle versus expat lifestyle. Two people can live in the same city with the same money and have totally different budgets. One rents sensibly, eats local food, uses transit or cheap taxis, and learns how the place works. The other stays only in foreigner-heavy neighborhoods, buys imported groceries, uses premium services, and wonders why the cheap country is not cheap. Same country, different budget. Renting and buying also need separate treatment. Renting a good apartment can make a country feel affordable even when buying property is complicated or expensive. Buying can make you look wealthy on paper while leaving less cash for daily life. $1 million in a brokerage account is different from $1 million locked inside a condo, so the test is not, can I live like a billionaire? $1 million is serious capital, but it is not unlimited luxury money. The useful question is whether it can create a secure, comfortable life without the budget depending on fantasy math. That is why the passive income question cannot be answered in isolation. 5% before taxes sounds strong, but it only matters after you compare it with the cost of rent, food, healthcare, transportation, and the lifestyle you actually plan to live. The cleanest baseline is America, because for US viewers it shows the problem immediately. The same money can feel huge in one zip code and strangely ordinary in another. In the United States, $1 million still sounds rich. It should. For most people, it is life-changing money. If you have debt, no savings, no retirement account, or a car that makes a new sound every week, $1 million changes the whole situation. It gives you options, safety, and breathing room. The problem is that life-changing and never think about money again are not the same thing. That is why America is the baseline. The US has cheap regions, expensive regions, huge suburbs, rural towns, luxury cities, and housing markets that make normal math uncomfortable. In a lower-cost city or smaller town, $1 million can be extremely strong. You may be able to buy a good house, invest the rest, and live with much more security than the average person. If your housing is paid off and your lifestyle is reasonable, the money can feel powerful. In expensive metros, the same million feels different. New York, San Francisco, Los Angeles, Miami, Seattle, Boston, and parts of Washington, D.C. can turn $1 million into good start money instead of I have escaped money. Zillow is where millionaire confidence goes to get corrected. $1 million also changes depending on whether it is liquid. If it is in cash or investments, you can use it for income, emergencies, and mobility. If most of it is home equity, it may make you look rich while giving you less monthly flexibility. Housing is the big reason. If a large share of your net worth is inside a house, you may technically be a millionaire while still budgeting like everyone else. The money exists, but it is trapped in walls, a roof, property taxes, maintenance, insurance, and a mortgage conversation you did not ask for. That is the house poor problem. On paper, you look rich. In daily life, you are still checking bills. This is why two American millionaires can live completely different lives. One person might have a paid-off home in a lower-cost region, investments, and the calm monthly budget. Another might have the same net worth mostly trapped in a high-cost house, with insurance, taxes, and maintenance still taking bites every month. The passive income test also shows why $1 million is serious but not magical. At 1%, it helps, but it does not replace a full income. At 3%, it becomes meaningful, especially if housing is cheap or paid off. At 5%, it can support a modest lifestyle in many places, but taxes, inflation, and investment risk still show up with a fork. In the US, healthcare also affects how free the money feels. If you have coverage through a job, spouse, government program, or a private plan, the math looks different. If you are planning everything yourself, medical costs and insurance can take a lot of the relaxation out of being wealthy. America also has advantages: deep financial markets, many places to live, a huge range of lifestyles, strong earning potential, lots of investment options. The US also gives you choices inside the same country: small town paid-off house life, suburban family life, big city career life, and remote work life. You can make $1 million feel very different depending on whether you choose a high-cost coastal city or a lower-cost region. The US also forces trade-offs. In some areas, housing is cheaper, but you need a car for everything. In dense cities, you may get more jobs, transit, and restaurants, but housing eats more of the budget. $1 million gives you options, but the options are not equally priced. So America's rating is comfortable, but city-dependent. In the right place, $1 million can make you financially secure. In the wrong place, it can make you a homeowner with a nice net worth, a leaking roof, and a very normal amount of stress. The US teaches the core lesson: wealth is not just the number. Wealth is the number compared with your environment. Now we take that lesson to one of the most important contrast countries in the world. Tonight, China is one of the best countries for this test because the answer changes dramatically by city. Depending on exchange rates, $1 million becomes several million Chinese yuan. That is a serious local number. It gives the money immediate scale. The money enters China standing a little straighter. But China is not one lifestyle. It is a huge country with top-tier global cities, major regional cities, smaller urban centers, manufacturing hubs, university towns, tourist cities, and enormous differences in housing and daily costs. So the honest answer to, can $1 million make you live like a king in China? Is, it can make you very comfortable, but the city decides how close you get to king mode. Shanghai may hand you a calculator, Chengdu might hand you hot pot and tell you to relax. Start with the expensive side. Shanghai, Beijing, Shenzhen, Guangzhou, and other top-tier cities have serious money, competitive housing markets, and expensive neighborhoods. If you try to buy prime property in the most desirable areas, $1 million can shrink quickly. It is still a lot of money, but it is surrounded by people and prices that are used to large numbers. That is the big city trap. But that expensive city story is only half the country. A person living in a lower-cost modern city can experience a very different version of China: high-speed rail access, dense neighborhoods, strong food options, shopping malls, delivery apps, local services, and apartments that do not have the same global status premium as Shanghai or Beijing. Daily life is where China becomes more interesting. In many Chinese cities, food can be excellent without needing luxury prices every time. Noodles, dumplings, hot pot, barbecue, street snacks, fruit, tea drinks, delivery meals, and casual restaurants can make eating well feel normal. If you enjoy local food, the lifestyle value can be strong. Services can also change how rich the money feels. This is where the lifestyle test gets real, because nobody dreams of being rich so they can keep doing every annoying errand themselves. That does not mean China is universally cheap. It means the mix of urban density, app-based convenience, food options, and service costs can make daily life feel very comfortable if you are not chasing the most expensive housing. City choice is everything. In Shanghai, the money may give you a great life, but it will not make you the richest person in the room. In a major regional city like Chengdu, Chongqing, Xi'an, Qingdao, or a similar lower-cost modern city, the same money may stretch much further. Rent can be more manageable. Services can feel affordable, food can be excellent. The daily lifestyle may feel much closer to what people imagine when they say, living like a king. Then there is passive income. If the money stays in US assets, income depends on US investments, US taxes, exchange rates, and how you manage risk. If it is moved into Chinese accounts or products, the rules, rates, access, and currency controls become a different situation. Recent bank deposit rates in China have often been much lower than the fantasy version of passive income people imagine, so the money does not automatically become a huge interest machine. There are also real-life details that matter: visas, taxes, healthcare access, property rules, banking access, currency exchange rules, and whether you are living as a visitor, resident, or citizen. Those details can change the answer more than a simple cost of living chart. A short visit can make the service life look amazing. A long-term move has to handle paperwork, language, health coverage, banking, and where the money is actually invested. That is not as fun as hot pot and massages, but it is what decides whether the plan works. So the strongest China argument is daily lifestyle, not pretending every part of the financial system is simple. In the right city, the million can buy time, comfort, food, mobility, and services. That is practical wealth. It may not look like a mansion, but it feels good every day. Honestly, I ate well, moved easily, and did not spend my weekend doing chores, is a better luxury package than people admit. So China's rating has two layers. For top-tier city property, rich, but calm down. For daily life in many cities, especially if you rent and choose the city carefully, very comfortable with real king mode potential. China is not a single number answer. In the wrong neighborhood, the million gets humbled. In the right city, it can buy a high-comfort urban life with great food, convenience, frequent services, and a lot more breathing room than many Americans are used to. The safest way to phrase China is this: $1 million may not make you untouchable, but it can make ordinary life feel unusually smooth if you choose the right city and avoid treating top-tier real estate as the whole country. Now let's keep the Asia comparison going, but move into countries where quality of life is high and cheap living is not guaranteed. Japan, South Korea, and Singapore. A country can be clean, safe, convenient, and full of good food while still being expensive. That is rude, but apparently allowed. That is the main lesson from Japan, South Korea, and Singapore. These places can give you an excellent life. They can also remind you that excellent things tend to send invoices. Start with Japan. Depending on exchange rates, $1 million becomes well over 100 million Japanese yen. That sounds huge, and it is. But Japan is not a cheap living shortcut. It is a quality of life country with a big city caveat. Tokyo can be expensive, especially if you want a large, central, modern apartment. But Japan also has variety. Smaller cities, less central neighborhoods, and calmer lifestyles can make the money stretch much better. The strength of Japan is not just price, it is the life you can get for the price. Reliable transit, safety, convenience, good food at many price levels, clean public spaces. A daily routine can feel organized in a way that makes American errands look chaotic. The service life test is more mixed. Japan has convenience everywhere, but personal services are not automatically cheap in the way Americans might imagine from Southeast Asia. The value is more about smooth systems than cheap help. The trains work, the food is good, the city functions. Your money buys calm, not servants. $1 million in Japan probably does not buy unlimited Tokyo luxury. It can make you very comfortable if housing is handled sensibly. The dream here is less private castle, more clean apartment, great food, and trains that behave better than most adults. Japan's rating, very comfortable, but city-dependent. Now South Korea. We mean South Korea. North Korea is not a normal cost of living comparison, and reliable public lifestyle data is limited. South Korea is especially interesting because Seoul is so attractive. Food, cafes, public transit, shopping, healthcare access for eligible residents, beauty services, entertainment, nightlife, technology, and dense city life all make Seoul feel like a place where money can turn into experience very quickly. Depending on exchange rates, $1 million becomes more than 1 billion South Korean won. The word billion sounds powerful. Seoul housing is very capable of reducing that confidence. Your bank account says billionaire, the apartment market says cute. Housing in Seoul, especially in desirable areas, can be intense. Deposits, rents, and purchase prices can make a big local number feel smaller than expected. You may have enough to enjoy the city very well, but not enough to ignore the housing market. Daily life can still be strong. Food can be reasonable depending on where you eat. Transit is excellent, convenience is high. Healthcare costs and access depend on status and insurance, but for many residents, the system can feel more predictable than the American medical bill lottery. South Korea's rating, comfortable to very comfortable, with Seoul as the main warning label. Then Singapore. Depending on exchange rates, $1 million becomes more than 1 million Singapore dollars. That is a lot of money. Singapore is also a very wealthy, very efficient, very expensive place. The country offers safety, order, transit, global business access, strong infrastructure, and excellent food. Hawker centers can be affordable and genuinely great, so daily eating does not have to mean luxury spending. Housing is the hard part. Private housing, central locations, and upscale lifestyle expectations can make $1 million feel less impressive than the number suggests. Singapore is also small, wealthy, and globally connected, which means space and status both carry a premium. Singapore is exactly the kind of place where being a millionaire is nice, but not rare enough to make the city rearrange itself for you. The passive income test is also less exciting here because a comfortable Singapore lifestyle can require a serious monthly budget. If the income from the million covers your food in transit but not housing, then the money is still helpful, just less dramatic. Singapore's rating: comfortable if you are careful, house poor, millionaire risk if you chase private luxury housing. Singapore is not a bad place for a millionaire. It is a place where $1 million buys stability and quality more than dominance. If your goal is comfort, it can work. If your goal is status spending, the city has plenty of ways to absorb the money and ask if you brought more. The larger lesson from expensive Asia is simple. $1 million can buy comfort, quality, convenience, food, transit, and security. It does not automatically buy unlimited luxury. Japan rewards a thoughtful lifestyle. South Korea rewards smart location choices. Singapore rewards anyone who understands the difference between comfortable and flashy. After that, the video needs a tone shift, because the next region is where the service life part of the fantasy becomes much stronger. Southeast Asia. Southeast Asia is where the lifestyle stretch becomes much stronger. This is the part of the video where the money stops sweating and starts looking for a massage menu. This is the section people imagine when they ask, could $1 million let me live like a king? The answer can be yes, with a serious footnote: comfort still requires respect. Lower costs do not make a country your personal playground. The useful version of king mode means a comfortable apartment, good food, easier transportation, regular services, and enough financial breathing room that daily life feels easier. The crown is not a gold throne. It is ordering dinner, taking a taxi, getting laundry done, and still not feeling financially attacked. Start with Thailand. Depending on exchange rates, $1 million becomes tens of millions of Thai baht. That is a strong local number, and Thailand has one of the clearest lifestyle stretch cases in the video. Food is a major part of it. Thai food is famous for a reason. Street food, markets, noodles, curries, grilled meats, seafood, fruit, coffee, and casual restaurants can make eating well feel affordable compared with expensive US cities. The service life is also strong. Massages, taxis, ride-hailing, laundry, delivery, cleaning, and restaurants can be far more accessible than in the US, depending on location and lifestyle. That is where $1 million starts to feel powerful in everyday terms. Less, look at my yacht, more my back hurts, so I booked a massage and continued being alive. Housing depends on the city. Bangkok costs more than many smaller cities. Tourist-heavy beach areas can get expensive, especially if you want luxury. Places like Chiang Mai or less famous cities may stretch money further. Buying property involves rules that need careful research, so renting is usually the cleaner thought experiment example. Thailand's rating: king mode potential. Think less, buy the country, more. Why is my Tuesday suddenly easier? Mode: that does not mean problem-free. Visas, healthcare planning, insurance, taxes, heat, traffic, and lifestyle choices all matter. Vietnam has the biggest currency shock moment. Depending on exchange rates, $1 million becomes tens of billions of Vietnamese dong. The number sounds absurd, but again, the real test is lifestyle. Vietnam can stretch money very far compared with the US. Food is a major strength: coffee, noodle soups, banh mi, seafood, street food, casual restaurants, and delivery. If you like local food, the value can be excellent. Ho Chi Minh City and Hanoi are more expensive than smaller cities, and expat-friendly neighborhoods cost more than local areas. But rent, food, transportation, and everyday services can still be much lower than in major American metros. Vietnam's rating: king mode potential to very comfortable, depending on city, lifestyle, and legal status. The caution is simple. A cheap meal does not equal a full retirement plan. The banh mi may be incredible, but it is not an immigration strategy. Long-term visas, healthcare access, taxes, local laws, and personal comfort with the environment all matter. Malaysia is one of the more balanced entries. Depending on exchange rates, $1 million becomes several million Malaysian ringgit. Malaysia can offer modern infrastructure, strong food culture, English usage in many settings, good shopping, healthcare options, and a cost structure that may feel much friendlier than the United States. Kuala Lumpur can provide a strong city lifestyle without Singapore-level costs. Other cities may stretch the money further. Malaysia may not have the loudest cheap paradise reputation online, but it has a very serious comfort case. It is not screaming for attention, it is quietly being practical, which is suspiciously attractive after enough expensive cities. Malaysia's rating: very comfortable, with king mode potential for the right lifestyle. Malaysia is useful because it is not only about being cheaper. It can offer a balance of affordability, modern comfort, language accessibility in many places, and city convenience. For a lot of people, that balance is more valuable than simply chasing the lowest possible rent and pretending inconvenience is character development. Then, the Philippines. Depending on exchange rates, $1 million becomes tens of millions of Philippine pesos. For Americans, the Philippines has a few special advantages. English is widely used, there are strong cultural ties with the US, and many people already consider it for retirement, family, or long stays. Daily life can be affordable in many places. Food, services, rent, and transportation can stretch far compared with expensive US cities. But the Philippines is very location dependent. Metro Manila, Cebu, beach areas, provincial cities, and smaller towns are different experiences. Infrastructure varies, healthcare access varies, safety and convenience vary. That makes planning more important. The Philippines rating, very comfortable to king mode potential, with major location and healthcare caveats. The English language advantage can make adjustment easier for Americans, but it does not make planning optional. Long-term living still depends on visas, health coverage, transportation, infrastructure, and how much convenience you expect. Southeast Asia gives $1 million some of its strongest lifestyle power. Thailand brings food and services. Vietnam brings affordability and energy. Malaysia brings balance. The Philippines brings accessibility for many English-speaking Americans. This is the region where the phrase, living like a king, finally starts sounding less like a meme and more like a monthly budget category. This is where the fantasy works best if you keep it grounded. Now let's move closer to the United States, Mexico, Canada, and Brazil. For American viewers, nearby countries feel more realistic. Thailand or Vietnam may sound exciting, but Mexico and Canada are easier to imagine visiting first. Brazil is farther away, but it is a major country with a big lifestyle contrast. Start with Mexico. Depending on exchange rates, $1 million becomes many millions of Mexican pesos. The exact number moves, but the point is that it is a serious amount of local money. Mexico is one of the most relevant countries for Americans. It is close, familiar to many travelers, culturally rich, and already popular for long stays, retirement, remote work, and family connections. The lifestyle stretch can be strong. Food is excellent at many price levels. Markets, tacos, seafood, bakeries, coffee, regional dishes, and casual restaurants can make daily life feel much better than a typical overpriced American lunch. This is where your money looks at a US airport sandwich and asks for an apology. Housing depends heavily on where you go. Mexico City, popular beach towns, and foreigner-heavy neighborhoods can be expensive. Smaller cities and less tourist-driven areas can be much more affordable. Services like cleaning, laundry, transportation, and casual dining can often cost less than in the US. Mexico's rating, very comfortable, with king mode potential in some areas. For many Americans, Mexico has an extra advantage. You can usually visit first without turning the decision into a whole identity change. You can compare cities, learn neighborhoods, test daily costs, and see whether the lifestyle actually fits you before pretending you have solved life. The big split is local lifestyle versus foreigner, heavy lifestyle. If you eat locally, rent sensibly, and avoid overheated neighborhoods, the money can stretch. If you recreate an expensive US lifestyle with imported products, private everything, and the trendiest area in town, the savings shrink quickly. For passive income, Mexico is interesting because many Americans could imagine keeping assets in the US while spending in pesos. That can work in theory, but exchange rates, taxes, residency status, and healthcare planning still matter. A strong US dollar income can feel powerful until the peso moves, rents rise in popular areas, or the lifestyle becomes more expensive than expected. The caveats matter. Safety varies by state, city, neighborhood, and current local conditions. Healthcare, residency rules, taxes, and whether you live locally or inside an expat bubble all change the math. Mexico is also where the American comparison is easiest to feel. If someone is used to US restaurant prices, US rent, and US service costs, parts of Mexico can make daily life feel much more flexible. The danger is assuming every desirable area still has old prices. Many do not. Now Canada. Depending on exchange rates, $1 million becomes well over 1 million Canadian dollars. For Americans, Canada feels familiar. Language, culture, distance, institutions, and a lifestyle that is easier to understand than a completely unfamiliar country. But Canada has a major housing problem in its most desirable markets. The money crosses the border feeling confident, then Toronto and Vancouver start talking. Toronto and Vancouver can make $1 million feel less powerful than expected. If you want to buy in prime areas, the money may be a strong position rather than a luxury ticket. Outside the biggest housing pressure zones, the million can go further. But Canada is not simply America, but cheaper. Taxes, weather, immigration status, and eligibility for healthcare all matter. The service life test is also less dramatic in Canada. Labor is expensive, services are expensive, and daily convenience will feel closer to the US than to Thailand or Vietnam. Canada may buy familiarity and stability, not king mode. Canada's rating, comfortable, but big city housing risk. Canada also shows how familiarity can hide cost pressure. Because the culture feels close to the US, people may expect the money to behave in a familiar way. Then Toronto or Vancouver housing enters the conversation and everyone gets quieter. Then Brazil. Depending on exchange rates, $1 million becomes several million Brazilian reais. That can go far in some places, but Brazil is highly location dependent. Sao Paulo is different from Rio de Janeiro. Rio is different from a smaller coastal city. A high-end neighborhood is different from a normal neighborhood. The lifestyle can be excellent, but the assumptions matter. Brazil offers food, music, beaches, major cities, nature, and huge regional variety. $1 million can create a very comfortable life in the right setup. Safety needs careful, non-sensational handling. It varies by area and behavior. Healthcare access, taxes, neighborhood choice, local knowledge, and inequality all affect the experience. Brazil's rating, comfortable to very comfortable, highly location dependent. Brazil is one of those countries where a good setup can look very comfortable, but a careless setup can create problems quickly. Local knowledge matters more than a simple online budget. The best Brazil case is a well-chosen location where housing, food, scenery, and services work together. The risky version is assuming a large, complex country will behave like one neighborhood from a travel video. The lesson here is that proximity does not make money simple. Mexico may stretch the million beautifully, but planning matters. Canada may feel familiar, but housing can be rough. Brazil may offer major lifestyle potential, but location decides a lot. Now we move to the region Americans often imagine as classy, historic, romantic, stable, and occasionally very expensive. Europe. Europe is not one cost of living. It is a continent, not a subscription plan. That is the only caveat we need before starting. The United Kingdom, France, Germany, Italy, Spain, Portugal, and Switzerland do not behave like one market. Start with the United Kingdom. Depending on exchange rates, $1 million becomes hundreds of thousands of British pounds. That is strong money. London is still fully capable of making it sit down and lower its voice. Prime London housing is expensive. If you want a central, desirable home, the million gets humbled quickly. Outside London, the money can go much further. Regional variation is huge. UK rating, comfortable, but London hurts. Outside London, $1 million can look very different. Regional cities and smaller towns may offer a much stronger housing position, especially for someone who does not need to live near the highest-paying job markets. The UK is a country where the exact postcode can change the whole story. The United Kingdom is also a reminder that language comfort can hide financial friction. Americans may understand the signs, the websites, and the conversations, but that does not mean the money stretches like it would in a lower-cost country. Familiar does not always mean affordable. France has a similar split. Depending on exchange rates, $1 million becomes close to €1 million. Paris can be expensive because global demand, tourism, limited central housing, and status all push prices up. But France outside Paris can be a very different story. Smaller cities and regions may give $1 million more room to create stability, good food, healthcare planning, transit options, travel, and quality of life. France rating, comfortable to very comfortable, depending on Paris versus the rest. France also highlights lifestyle quality. If the goal is food, healthcare planning, public services, walkable areas, and a slower pace, the million may feel better than it would in a pure housing comparison. If the goal is central Paris property, the romance gets expensive quickly. Germany is less fantasy and more practical. Germany can offer stability, strong cities, transit, healthcare systems, groceries, travel, and a high-quality everyday life. But it is not usually the place where $1 million turns into palace money. Germany is more, your life works, than everyone bows when you enter Aldi. Munich, Berlin, Hamburg, Frankfurt, Cologne, and smaller cities all have different cost profiles. The money can create comfort and security, especially with sensible housing, but it is more solid adult life than luxury vacation forever. Germany rating, comfortable, with city variation. For a US viewer, Germany is a reminder that rich does not always mean flashy. Sometimes it means predictable costs, decent systems, good transit, and a routine that does not constantly feel like an emergency. Italy, Spain, and Portugal are where many Americans start daydreaming. The appeal is obvious: food, weather, architecture, walkable cities, beaches, slower daily routines, and regions where comfort can cost less than in the most expensive US cities. $1 million can create a very comfortable lifestyle in many regions of Italy and Spain, especially outside the most expensive tourist zones. Portugal also has strong lifestyle appeal, although some popular areas had become more expensive as foreign attention increased. This is another place where older internet advice can become outdated. A country can be a good value and still have specific cities or neighborhoods where prices have moved up because everyone discovered the same hidden gem. The important split is famous city versus smaller region. Rome, Milan, Barcelona, Madrid, Lisbon, Porto, and tourist-heavy coastal areas will not price like quiet inland towns. Italy, Spain, and Portugal rating: very comfortable in the right region, comfortable in the most popular zones. The key is not relying on old bargain stories. Once a city becomes popular with foreign buyers, retirees, remote workers, and investors, prices can adjust. The dream may still be good, but it needs current research. Then Switzerland. Depending on exchange rates, $1 million becomes hundreds of thousands of Swiss francs. That is a lot of money. Switzerland is also one of the places where a lot of money can still feel ordinary next to local prices. High salaries, high housing costs, insurance costs, expensive services, and expensive daily life all change the feeling. Switzerland offers beauty, stability, safety, and quality of life. It does not offer cheap living. Switzerland's rating: rich, but not special. Rich with house-poor risk in expensive areas. Switzerland is beautiful, but beauty there appears to come with a receipt. Europe also adds a paperwork layer. Americans sometimes talk about moving to Europe like they are choosing a different state. Long-term visas, tax residency, healthcare access, local registration, and property rules can all shape the real cost. The lifestyle comparison may look comfortable, but the paperwork still gets a vote. Europe's lesson is clear. The passive income test in Europe depends heavily on country, tax status, and housing. If you own a home outright in a lower-cost region, the income from $1 million can feel strong. If you are renting in London, Paris, Zurich, or another high-demand city, the same income can feel surprisingly ordinary. $1 million can buy comfort, security, culture, food, travel, and a very good life. It just depends on whether you choose London, Paris, Zurich, Lisbon, Valencia, a smaller French city, a German regional city, or a quieter Italian town. In Europe, the money often buys quality of life more than flashy luxury. Before the final ranking, we need one more group: countries where the answer is complicated by scale, inequality, luxury traps, housing pressure, or major internal differences. India, the United Arab Emirates, Australia, and South Africa. Some countries are too internally different for one clean answer. $1 million can feel enormous in one city, normal in one neighborhood, and surprisingly limited in a luxury district. That is why this section matters before the final ranking. These countries are also where lazy comparisons break fastest. A simple average cost of living can hide enormous variation. A rich neighborhood, a business district, a tourist zone, and a smaller local city can all sit inside the same country and feel financially unrelated. Start with India. Depending on exchange rates, $1 million becomes tens of millions of Indian rupees. Relative to many local incomes, that is extremely powerful. In India, $1 million can potentially provide access to high-quality housing in many places, private healthcare options, domestic help, drivers, good food, travel, and a level of comfort that would be much harder to recreate in the United States. But India contains huge differences between cities, neighborhoods, income levels, infrastructure, climate, pollution, healthcare access, and lifestyle expectations. Mumbai, Bengaluru, Delhi, and smaller cities can feel like completely different markets. Wealthy neighborhoods and normal neighborhoods can also operate on very different budgets. This is also where the local income comparison becomes important. $1 million can look enormous relative to many salaries, but high-end urban life in major Indian cities can still be expensive. If you want premium neighborhoods, private schools, international goods, and a lifestyle insulated from every inconvenience, the budget rises quickly. So India may offer some of the strongest purchasing power potential in the video, but only if the lifestyle assumption is clear. Local comfort, expat comfort, and luxury insulation are not the same thing. India's rating: king mode potential, but extremely location dependent. Now the United Arab Emirates. The UAE dirham is pegged to the US dollar, so the exchange rate is more stable than most currencies. $1 million is about 3.7 million dirhams. Dubai and Abu Dhabi can offer modern infrastructure, services, safety in many areas, global business access, and a very polished lifestyle. The problem is that luxury is everywhere. The UAE can make $1 million feel strong if you live sensibly, and, surprisingly ordinary if you try to participate in every status game. This is one of the easiest places to confuse wealth with display. Living well and proving you are rich are two different budgets. Dubai is very good at making people forget that. High-end apartments, cars, restaurants, private schools, hotels, beach clubs, and luxury services can drain money fast. Tax rules can be attractive for some residents, but the details depend on status, income source, and planning. That is the danger of a luxury environment. The city can make expensive behavior feel normal. If everyone around you is spending aggressively, $1 million can stop feeling like a fortune and start feeling like permission to make bad decisions in nicer shoes. UAE rating: comfortable, but luxury trap. Self-control matters here. Sensible housing and normal spending can make the money feel strong. Luxury towers, high-end cars, private schools, and constant status spending can make it feel average fast. Australia is next. Depending on exchange rates, $1 million becomes well over 1 million Australian dollars. Australia offers high quality of life, English language, beaches, major cities, nature, and a lifestyle many Americans can imagine quickly. The problem is that imagining the beach is free. Living near the good parts is not, but Sydney and Melbourne housing can be expensive. In desirable areas, $1 million may be a strong contribution rather than a complete solution. Outside the highest pressure markets, it can go further. But Australia is not a low-cost country. The kangaroos may be casual, the housing market is not. Food, services, labor, insurance, taxes, transportation, and housing all need respect. Australia rating: comfortable, but big city housing pressure. The passive income test is similar to Canada and the US. $1 million can help a lot, but high labor costs and housing prices make daily services less likely to feel cheap. Australia is a comfort country, not a discount country fantasy. Finally, South Africa. Depending on exchange rates, $1 million becomes many millions of South African rand. In certain areas, that can support a very comfortable lifestyle. Housing, food, services, scenery, and space can compare favorably with expensive US cities. But South Africa has serious location caveats. Safety varies significantly. Infrastructure, power reliability, healthcare choices, security costs, neighborhood selection, and local knowledge all matter. Cape Town, Johannesburg, Durban, smaller towns, and high-end suburbs are different experiences. $1 million can create a strong lifestyle in the right setup, but the practical planning is not optional. South Africa rating: very comfortable to king mode potential in some areas, with serious location and safety caveats. This group proves why a simple cheap to expensive ranking would be weak. India shows huge purchasing power potential with major internal complexity. The UAE shows how luxury culture can shrink a strong budget. Australia shows that familiar language does not protect you from housing costs. South Africa shows that lifestyle stretch can be real while safety and infrastructure still matter. So the final answer has to rank lifestyle feel, not just exchange rates. Now we put it all together. So where does $1 million feel biggest? The honest answer is a practical tier list, not a universal law. Exchange rates move. Housing markets change. Taxes, visas, healthcare, safety, and lifestyle choices all affect the result. Also, people want different lives. Someone who wants beach towns, massages, and cheap food will rank countries differently from someone who wants top-tier hospitals, perfect transit, legal simplicity, and proximity to family. $1 million does not answer those preferences. It only gives you more ways to choose. But based on the lifestyle test, the strongest tier is king mode potential. This is where $1 million has the best chance of creating a high-comfort life, good housing options, affordable food, regular services, transportation, and enough passive income breathing room to make daily life easier. This is the closest thing to king mode without needing a crown, a castle, or a deeply concerning ego. The key word is potential. A country does not do the work by itself. Your city, neighborhood, legal status, healthcare needs, and monthly spending decide whether the million becomes freedom or just a nicer version of normal bills. Thailand belongs here. Vietnam belongs here. Malaysia can reach this tier depending on lifestyle. The Philippines can too, with careful planning. India can absolutely belong here in many contexts, but it is extremely location dependent. Mexico can reach this tier in certain areas. The next tier is very comfortable. This includes places where $1 million can create a strong life, but the city and lifestyle choices matter more. China outside the most expensive top-tier housing zones fits here, and in the right city, it can push higher. Portugal, Spain, parts of Italy, Brazil in the right location, and South Africa in the right setup can also fit here. Then comes rich, but calm down. This is where $1 million is clearly strong, but the environment is expensive enough that the money cannot act like royalty. Japan fits here. South Korea fits here, especially with Seoul as the caveat. Germany and France can fit here depending on city. Canada and Australia outside the biggest housing traps can fit here too. Then, comfortable, but city dependent. This tier includes the United States, Canada, Australia, the United Kingdom, France, Germany, China, South Korea, and others depending on location. In these places, $1 million can feel rich in one region and merely secure in another. Finally, house poor millionaire risk. This is where real estate, luxury expectations, or major city costs can humble the money quickly. Singapore belongs here if you chase private housing and luxury lifestyle. Switzerland belongs here in expensive areas. London, Paris, Seoul, Tokyo, New York, San Francisco, Vancouver, Sydney, and parts of Dubai can create the same feeling. The country is not always the problem. Usually it is the specific city, the specific neighborhood, and the decision to live like someone with 10 times the budget. $1 million is strong. It is not an excuse to develop yacht behavior. If there is a hidden winner, it is a combination: lower-cost city, good healthcare access, reasonable housing, affordable services, stable legal status, and a lifestyle that does not try to impress strangers. That combination makes the million feel far larger than the exchange rate alone. The boring setup wins, which is annoying because the boring setup keeps being right. That is the real answer. $1 million is powerful. It can buy security, flexibility, and a much better life in many places. But it is not one lifestyle. It feels biggest where housing, food, services, healthcare access, safety, and daily costs work together. It feels weakest where expensive cities and luxury expectations eat it. In Thailand, it may feel like comfort and ease. In China, it may become a strong urban lifestyle if you choose the city well. In Japan, it may become clean, safe, high-quality living with a housing caveat. In Singapore, it may become comfortable but very aware of property prices. In America, it depends heavily on whether you live somewhere reasonable. The real millionaire cheat code is not just having $1 million. It is having $1 million in the right place, with realistic housing choices, careful passive income assumptions, healthcare and visa planning, and enough common sense to avoid spending like a billionaire who just discovered room service. The money matters. The place decides how far it goes.